Herzlich willkommen, mein Name ist Claudia Hoppe. Dies ist eine Sonderausgabe meines Podcasts. Es ist Ende Oktober, aber wenn ihr das hört, ist es wahrscheinlich schon irgendwas um Weihnachten rum. And now I'll switch to English. With me in my home studio in Neukölln is the third guest from the Bay Area Theater Sports or the Bats, John Remak.
Although in German you would say Remak.
Yeah. Is it a German name?
Sort of. I mean, my family came from here, but I don't know that the name is particularly German.
Okay. And I want to use this opportunity of having you here to talk about one very specific format that the Bats is performing, and that is the James Bond format.
Right.
And coincidentally, yesterday was the premiere. Do you say premiere?
That's right. It's a French word.
Yeah, of the new James Bond movie here in Berlin.
Wow.
Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
And the reason I selected particularly this format is also because I've seen it. So I was in California in 2012, and I went to see a Bats show, and it was the James Bond format, and I have to say I was really impressed. You were even you played the main character, the James Bond. Mm-hmm. Maybe you remember the show was called, I think, Diamond Legs?
Well, if it's more than 2 months ago, I don't remember it.
Yeah, I would.
But if you enjoyed the show, I was probably in it.
So, first, John, some words about you to introduce you to the audience. So, you're from San Francisco.
I am. I'm a San Francisco native.
Wow. So you have always been living there.
Yeah.
Wow. And have you been to Berlin or to Europe or to Germany before?
I came here when I was a child with my family. We visited Europe, and
for how long?
Oh, I don't remember, but it was back when it was East and West Germany, and we went through Checkpoint Charlie, and I remember we watched some sort of parade or something, and I think I got in the way and was almost killed.
Oh boy!
No, not really, but it was a different time.
Yeah,
you still had Deutschmark and
definitely.
Everything.
Yes, yeah. And what brings you to Germany this time, or to Berlin particularly?
Well, I came to improv and to visit as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what improv stuff do you do here?
I have been teaching, leading some workshops with some people. Thomas Jekyll, you say Jekyll?
Jekyll, yeah.
Jekyll. I work with another group, and then I'll be at the Potsdamer Festival.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
cool. And how do you like Berlin so far?
I love Berlin. It's a beautiful city. It's there's so many things that are very impressive. The your transit system. I can't imagine there's a better one in the world. You've got, although it's a little confusing.
What do you find confusing?
What train to get on? It's not exactly clear. It seems it could. I don't know. I think you could do something to make it more clear. But look, I'm not going to complain. You have trains and buses going everywhere all the time, and that's not how we do it back home. It's not so easy. And I see taxis, and I think, why would anybody take a taxi around here? And of course, I was late today, so I had to take a taxi here, and now I know why.
So, have you seen some Berlin improv?
No.
Ah.
I did a couple of shows. Did I do a couple or just one? I did a couple. I did 3 shows.
Wow.
So I saw them from the inside.
Okay, yeah, I see. Where did you perform?
I couldn't tell you the name. I can't remember the names of the places, but I did with Thomas's group, Tops. I did one show. We did a couple of shows with them. And then, actually, all 3 with them. And I ended up doing a 2-person show with Suzanne Van Dyke.
Yeah.
We ended up doing it. It ended up just being the 2 of us plus a musician, and that was fun.
Cool.
And it was in English and German, although I mostly spoke English. Threw in a few words of German that I knew.
Yeah, nice. John, when did you start to improvise?
Oh, that's a good question, Claudia. I started in high school.
Wow.
It,
So,
it was a drama class for theater, and I'd never heard of improv back then, and very few people knew improv back then. And I think all we played was freeze tag or something. There were no games.
okay, the entire time just freeze tags?
I honestly don't remember. I just remember it was just a very simple form of improv. And from there, I went to when I went to college, I met somebody who did improv, and then she told me about a woman in San Francisco. And I took classes with her. Her name is Sue Walden, and she's.
Yeah.
Do you know Sue? You know Sue?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's the president of the AIN network or something like that.
Yep, I knew Sue way back when. I still do know Sue, and she gave me. I took classes with her, and then she started. I started teaching classes for her. She invited me into I did a student performing group, then into Flash Family, which is the name of the group back then. And this is back in the 1980s.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what made you stick with improv?
I just loved it.
Can you say why you loved it?
I could say why I love it now. I guess it's the same reasons then. It's exciting. It's creative. Plus you don't have to learn lines, so it's good if you're lazy like me. I like it. I think we do it because there are those times, those moments when it's just magical and you're not even trying and things are just working. And that doesn't happen all the time. And I think I'm always trying to get that moment again. Maybe it's sort of like drugs. I don't know, trying to chase that high of that moment of just, that was just easy. And it works.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. To me, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So, what is your actual then educational background or professional background, or have you always been teaching improv for a living?
No, I have taught and performed improv for a long time, but currently I'm also an attorney. I went to law school while doing improv. I actually sort of stopped doing improv while I was going to law school. And, but I've done other things too. I also used to work in restaurants.
And law school means you were aiming to become...
judge, lawyer. Yeah, I am a lawyer. So
oh, you are?
I am a lawyer.
Wow. So for the bets, do you do like all the legal stuff? And if somebody is suing you and...
No, I don't. And nobody's suing us.
That's good. That's good.
But maybe I'll sue them.
Oh, wow. What for?
For not hiring me to do their legal work.
I see.
No, I'm kidding.
So do you have a favorite improv trainer then?
A favorite improv trainer? A teacher?
Yes, teacher.
Oh, I learn from everybody at Bats. We have such a talented group that you learn from everybody. I'm just watching them, and it's amazing.
And for how long have you been with the Bats?
So I can tell you this, that back in the 1980s, when I was working with Sue Walden in her company, there was a woman named Regina Saizi in that company who was also at Bats. And also, I took the spot of, when I started Flash Family, I took Rafe Chase's spot, also at Bats. So I've known those guys for over 25 years. Although I didn't start at Bats till much later. I started at Bats around 2001.
And the group, the Bats, were already existing by then, right? So you're not a founding member or something?
No, I'm not a founding member, but Rafe and Regina were very close to founding members. The Bats has been around for about 29 years, and they've probably been doing it for about 27. So whatever, do the math at home. I can't do it when that started. But yeah, they'd already been on the Bat stage for a long time, and when I finally decided, why aren't I doing this here? And I went to the Bat, and I saw how good they were, and I saw the Bat stage, and I went, I got to come here. I think what turned me, I do know. I heard that Bats did theater sports, and I heard theater sports was competitive improv or something. And to me, that didn't make sense.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I guess I was a purist. I didn't know at the time. So I thought, oh, I'm not interested in that. And I was so wrong. And I finally, like I say, when I finally saw the stage and I saw the people, I thought, oh, this is for me. So I started around 2001. I started as a student, just going through their program, which was much shorter at the time. And I got into these. I did student performances pretty much every weekend, every Sunday, which is the student performances, and just loved it. Just did as much performing as I could, getting better. And my play changed. I started to get rid of some bad habits that I had.
Like, for example?
Well, bad habit. Well, I think my biggest epiphany working at Bats was this really playing it straight, really not going for laughs, not going for jokes. And I've told this story to people about how I could be funny. I was pretty successful as an improviser before Bats at like Flash Family and what other groups I did. I could think of funny things and then do them, but that thinking of funny things isn't a good idea, I think, because whereas you're successful, I know what I'll do. I'll do X, Y, Z. And then you do it, you get a laugh. It's about 80% it works, maybe 75% of the time. The other 25% doesn't work, and it feels terrible. You do something that you're expecting a laugh, and you don't get it. So then I decided, well, I'm not going to try to expect to get laughs. And that's the change. That was a big change of just letting that go and just being in the scene, trying to stay focused. Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, some other things we got to do. I don't know why. We weren't allowed in Sue's group. We never played opposite genders. That was just a thing. And at Bats, we could. And I remember the first time I played a woman, and it was fun. So.
Okay. And are you now also playing with other groups back in San Francisco?
Yeah, I played with a number of groups. I can't barely remember all of them, but I've guested with True Fiction magazine.
And how often do you perform? Like per week or per month, in average?
Well, at Bats, it varies at Bats. We have 22 company members, and we have shows every weekend. So what's that? It's an average of about 10 shows, and I'm happy if I can get into 4 a month.
Okay.
Sometimes, so it can vary from 2 to 6.
And are you having then like guest stage appearances, like you've just been mentioning, with other groups, or is this?
Yeah, I also work with another group called Secret Improv Society in San Francisco. I also help manage some of their company.
Their legal stuff?
Actually, yes. Right. And so I work with Secret Improv, and they do a late night show in San Francisco on the weekends.
Okay.
Also, let me do a plug for Bats. Bats every weekend at 8 o'clock at Fort Mason.
Cool. Yeah, thank you, John, for this insight. Now I want to talk about the James Bond format that the Bats are performing. First question, have you guys actually invented this, or is this something that you took, I don't know, from some teacher or out of a book or something like that?
I think Ian Fleming invented it. No, it's did we invent it for? Actually, I believe it was Lisa that was the first director and maybe the only director of the James Bond format. So it was whatever her vision was is the one that we did.
I see. So can you explain how the format works in a couple of words?
Well, like most genre formats that we do, we don't actually say that we're James Bond. We are James Bond-like. So it's another agent with a different number, but the same kind of things, we'd assume. And that's the way we do Star Trek, and that's the way we do Downton Abbey long forms. We're not actually Lord Grantham's family. We're the manor down the road, or we're not the Starship Enterprise. We're a different ship. So that's the first thing. We're not actually James Bond, but we are Secret Service agents. And as far as the format, what I remember practicing was how, we would practice seeing the weapons, the beginning part where James would see something. I think we also practiced starting off with the end of another mission, as they normally do. There's a big action sequence. So we probably talked about that.
So what I remember, because I took some notes at this time when I saw the format, because I was so impressed. So what I remember is, so the things you asked for from the audience was a title first, and then you were asking for 3 locations, one of which is in Europe and one is an exotic one. And then there was this kind of song with the shadow wall thing.
Right. Okay. I agree. That's true. All of that is true. Now that you say that, I completely remember that now. Yeah, that sounds right. We often get titles. That's one of the things that we often do at Bats. And 3 locations make sense because James Bond takes place all over the world. And yes, of course, there had to be a montage dance opening with a sexy song on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. So my impression was actually that the format works in a way that there are certain stations or elements that the play or the show goes through. Is that correct, or are you more like mixing and matching?
There might be a loose 3-act structure going on there. So we might know that we're going to open with the song. We'll probably open with an action sequence. I'm pretty sure we did.
Yeah.
It might have been snowmobiles. Was it snowmobiles? And I do remember snowmobiles at some point. And then there's probably the meeting with M. And then I think it just goes from there.
What I have here is also, it started out with 2 girls on the beach, which is also very familiar setting for Mr. Bond.
Yes, it is. There's always, everything we've done anything we do has probably already been done, given that there's 25, 26 James Bond movies. What could be new?
The interesting thing is like how you find out and figure out and extract those key elements that can be seen in more or less every James Bond movie, or at least in many of them. And as you said, so the next thing I took notes of was you got a call from M from London. Then you go to London, then you meet Moneypenny. You have like this usual chit-chat talk with Moneypenny, and then you get your mission. And the next thing was you going to meet Q in the headquarters, and then you get your gadgets. And the gadgets were also something that you have been asking from the audience, if I remember correctly.
That sounds good.
I think it was 3 gadgets. I didn't note down which of them.
Exploding gum or something.
Yeah, something like that. And then I was also very impressed because you have to remember all these things. You have to remember the 3 locations. You have to remember the gadgets, and you need to use them in a moment where it makes sense. So the entire ensemble who's playing, I'm trying to remember how many you were. I would say you were maybe
6 or 7. 6 is a good number.
The entire cast then needs to remember, okay, what gadgets does he have? And how can we construct the situations in which he can use exactly those gadgets?
Well, let's be honest. That's just like 6 things to remember. That's not that hard.
Yeah, true.
But also, we have a whiteboard backstage. We can write it down. So we're not that good. Okay. It's really not very impressive to remember 6 things. But actually, you can forget stuff in the moment. You can forget anything when you're on stage. So.
Exactly.
But with 6 people, hey, if each person remembers one thing,
true,
right?
Mm-hmm. So I tried to remember the story. So what happened next was James Bond was sent to one of these locations, and he met a girl in the jungle, which is also like a stereotype or a cliche that is immediately like from every James Bond movie, although James Bond is not always in the jungle. But he met this girl, and she was working with monkeys, with apes.
Of course.
Yeah.
So like Jane Goodall or somebody. Okay.
Yeah. And
did I make love to her?
Yeah, later on, yes. I think she was like your buddy or companion or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, like the Bond girl of
Right.
this.
And then I had to kill her. No, I didn't kill her. Did I?
I'm trying to remember if she got killed in the end, but I can't, unfortunately.
Well, she either has to get killed or something has to happen because you can't have any ties. You got to move on to the next woman when you're James Bond.
True. Yeah, yesterday when there was the James Bond premiere here in Berlin, they interviewed this actress.
Yeah.
I can't remember her name.
She's the new Bond girl?
No, she's the Moneypenny.
Oh.
And she said she's never going to kiss James Bond or be kissed by him because then she's going to be out.
Yeah, they'll have to kill her. Yeah. I'll kiss you, but I'll have to kill you.
Exactly. Yeah, and then I guess the girl was somehow connected to the villain of that story. So the villain was, I think, some crazy doctor who did experiments with apes so that he can conquer the world. What else?
Never heard of such a thing. That doesn't sound like James Bond at all. A doctor trying to take over the world?
I can't remember if he had a cat. Maybe he had. I can't remember. And then there was his wife, and they were like, both of them were trying to to conquer the world, and she was the one with the diamond legs. I can't remember the exact connection, but it might be like not her real legs, or maybe she had like diamond implantate.
Yeah, implants. Sure.
Implants. Yeah,
Sure.
exactly. And
we took it very literally.
yes, you
title.
did. Yes, you did.
You know, it occurs to me as you're saying this, Claudia, that I think one of the dangers of this, as you're saying this, I'm thinking of Austin Powers. It sounds very, Dr. Evil. I think maybe that's one of the dangers of this format is that it falls a little too easily and too closely to Austin Powers and spoof, which may or may not be a bad thing. I don't know, but it's.
I think for a live show, it's awesome.
Yeah, that's good. All right. That's just in my head. I get those. I get worried. But, this leads to an important point, I think. I'll make an improv point. Ding. Here it is. I think that's the importance of trying to play it straight. Play it as for real as you can, because it's going to be a spoof anyway, and it's going to get silly. So just play it straight and don't play it like a comedy.
Yeah, because like in most cases with improv, it gets funny anyway. I can remember that it was quite funny and people laughed quite a lot. So even if you don't try to be funny, it will already be funny enough.
Diamond legs, right from the get-go, and diamond legs, and then whatever gadgets they probably gave us, some exploding condom or something. I don't know.
This is unfortunately where my notes end.
Oh.
So, now I'm dependent on you to finish the story, like what is going to happen in the James Bond format after he met the girl, after the villain was introduced.
I don't know, but I'm sure he conquered the villain and saved the world, had sex with the girl, and lived to die another day.
Yep, that's
trademark.
True. I think they had sex like in a kind of a submarine or something like that.
Again, what? I've never heard of such a thing. Sex in a submarine? That's so many. That's Roger Moore. I know right away. As soon as you can say anything, and snowmobiles. That's also Roger Moore did that.
So, how much of a skeleton do you have that you use, and how much can you make it up, or how many elements can you make up? How strict is your the corset of the format?
Right. Well, that's good. That's a good question, because it's something I'm very aware of, because I create formats too, and I'm always worried that I'm over structuring it, and I want to give players as much freedom as possible. So I think whenever anybody's making a format, they're trying to make it as loose as possible. And also, I think you have to say to your players at the top, if it goes off of this structure, fine. We'll deal with it. We'll make it work so as to not feel like, oh my gosh, we're doing this wrong.
Has this ever happened, be it with the James Bond format or with any other format that you play, that it went completely off and you did, I don't know, something completely different with it then?
I can remember one musical we did. I don't know that it had much of a format, but it went completely sideways. Um, I won't name any names, but somebody, Lisa Rowland, time jumped the story 20 years at the very beginning, but it was a great show. Sorry, Lisa, I threw you under the train there, but it was a whole. You know the show I'm talking about. It was a good lesson, because I think it was at that time for me personally when I started to realize there are no mistakes. There's nothing to fix. So I don't have to. I feel like sometimes I'm a fixer, and I still probably do that every now and then. I can come in and but you can ruin things by fixing them as well. So if you go in with the mindset, there's nothing broken, so there's nothing to fix. And just to go, yes, this is exactly what this show is about. This show is about this time jump, and I think then we made it about time travel and then made the show a little bit more metaphorical. And that was sort of an eye-opener for me, too, because I think I'm fairly literal as well. And then to realize, well, it's theater, and things don't have to be so literal. They can be metaphors and somewhat fantastical. And that's where that show went. There are some expectations that you do have to meet. If you're going to do a James Bond format, there does have to be a super spy in there, and there has to be a villain. Although, who says so, right? I mean, I've always wondered, what's James Bond like on his day off? Does he go to the store and he buys, checks out which hand soap he's going to purchase? Or maybe he just sits back and he's like, maybe he puts on like his 5 pounds between jobs, and starts maybe, I don't know, but anyway, the point is, I think you do want to meet some of those have to meet some of those expectations. If you're going to I do courtroom drama, there has to be a courtroom scene in there eventually. So yeah, expectations should have to be met, otherwise people will go, I was expecting this and you gave me that. Otherwise, you can just do open formats and let people, then nobody's disappointed.
Let people guess what it was at the end.
That's right. Oh, you didn't understand it? Well, that's your fault.
The character of James Bond itself, what is important about it? What is important when playing the Bond character?
Here's the thing about James Bond, and I don't know how I played it, but what worries me about him is that he never learns anything. There doesn't seem to be much of an arc for James Bond. So that's not the most interesting of characters.
You would say he's ignorant, kind of?
Not ignorant. No, he's already great, and he has nowhere to go but to stay great. He gets in a little trouble, but we all know he's going to live. So, I don't know if you can add some humanity to him or give him some. That's what this new Daniel Craig seems a little more vulnerable. And he really plays it for real. And maybe he'll get hurt. But to answer your question, how do you play James Bond? I mean, you just be suave and sexy and sophisticated. Oh, the 3 S's. Suave, sexy, sophisticated.
What does suave mean?
Suave. Well, that's French, I believe. Suave. Cool.
So, who's then your favorite James Bond character or actor?
Well, I like Daniel Craig a lot. Although I don't like what he just said. Did you hear what he said?
No.
He said he would rather slit his wrists than to play James Bond again.
Really?
Yeah. So he'd rather kill himself. And I thought,
why that? What is the reason that?
Well, it's like he's done playing James Bond. He's not interested anymore, and he doesn't like the character. And I think I get that. As an actor, it's limiting, but to come out and say, "Oh, I hate this character," is like, dude, you made millions of dollars. It's one of the most sought after characters of all time. Be a little more humble about it. So I didn't like that, but I think Daniel Craig's probably a swell guy.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, maybe that's why we don't do it so much. It seems that
because
Bond
it has changed so much from the Bond stereotype cliche to now the movies with Daniel Craig and so on.
No, I don't know why we don't do Bond that much. Maybe because they're all kind of the same. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, look, Do whatever. I don't mind it. If it sells, do it. But then we also have that other side of us that says, is it artistically rewarding? Now I'm sounding like Daniel Craig now. Oh, we're so tired of playing it. But I mean, there's how many places can we go? But if it sells, it sells. And I'll tell you another thing. Action. I think there's something about action that I'm not the hugest fan of when I hear somebody yell out, like if I'm doing a genre piece, that's fine, genre roller coaster, and they get action, then you just do some action and then you're done, boom. But to do a whole show of action, I think can be a little tedious and
A bit boring.
I'm all about the characters and the relationships. So maybe that's something we talked about then, or I don't know. But
I would always think that the action scenes are like the icing on the cake,
Yes.
but not so much the actual cake or the content of it.
Yes, I agree. I was working, there's another format I worked on as the Hitchcock thriller, and I worked with Thomas's group, did some Hitchcock. And a lot of that is the chases are the icing on the cake. And a lot of it is just building it up, the action as just a few set pieces, and then probably at the can I tell you my favorite James Bond movie? It was one of the first I saw. I saw Diamonds Are Forever. Actually, it was one of my favorites. It's very cartoony, but it's so much fun. Takes place in Las Vegas. It's got some good stuff in it. I like that one. And then Sean Connery is my favorite Bond.
Yeah, John, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, is there anything else regarding the James Bond format or James Bond in general that you want to give our audience on the way?
Do it. Have fun. I don't know what to tell you. Just make it your own and have a great time. Do it your own way.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, then thank you for coming here.
You're welcome.
And I wish you lots of fun during your stay in Berlin still.
Well, thank you for inviting me to this. This was a great fun, and I love your improv scene that you have here in Berlin, and I wish you all success.
Thank you very much.
Genau. Es freut mich. Auf Wiedersehen. Tschüss.
Genau. Ja, das war eine Sonderausgabe meines Podcasts und dann hören wir uns hoffentlich im nächsten Jahr. Tschüss.